There we go. Okay, so welcome everybody to Storytelling Friday. And as I said, our theme today is all about philosophy. Now, there's actually a couple different kinds of yoga philosophy. Anything that's been around this long, it's going to have different clubs and different teams, of course. We're talking about a specific type of philosophy called Samkhya. And what that means is it delves into the mystery of life by examining different parts of our human experience. And we take these different parts of our human experience and we examine them in order to arrive at a more complete knowledge of our wholeness. So we divide everything up in order to understand why it's all one. These parts are called Tattvas in yoga, Tattvas, Tattvas, which means thatness, that the divine is inherent in and inseparable from all things. So it seems like a little bit of a tongue twister. We take things apart in order to understand the whole, and then the parts, we examine them and realize that inherent in and inseparable from, they're perfect in all things. So the tattvas are like notes of a symphony by which the life of matter and the life of the spirit are bound together as one. So by studying the tattvas, which we will in practice today, it allows us to tease apart the various elements of life, but then see how they're all inseparable. And they create this beautiful harmony or balance that's like a symphony. So you can't separate matter from spirit. It's all the same. So in a lot of our medical modalities, we try to say mind and body are two separate things. I would suggest to you that 21st century medicine is going to come to very much mean that there is no separation between mind and body, all is one. And we're going to try to explore that in yoga today. So yoga is movement among the tattvas, but not all movement is yoga. Only movement that brings together whatever we're talking about, it has to bring something together, and that can be said to be yoga. So today we're going to explore the 25 tattvas and use yoga to create that harmony and balance. So we're starting in Shavasana this afternoon because we're starting in stillness, the primordial sleep. All is possible in stillness, but not yet manifest. So it brings us to our first tattva. So before we come up and start doing any other movement, maybe I'll just ask you to notice that you come to lie down, and maybe at first it felt good because you've had a busy day and you're like, oh, I get to lie down. And then after a second or two, you begin to notice there's a thought that disturbs your stillness, or an itch, or some other restlessness or sensation. Maybe the doorbell rang, and all of a sudden there's movement. Now, this is what we're talking about. This is the dance of creation. A long time ago, we did a Shiva Shakti class, and we talked about the dance of creation. But this is what you're experiencing as you lay in Shavasana and you try to be quiet, and then all of a sudden something disturbs that stillness. You're experiencing the dance of Shiva and Shakti, or in Samkhya philosophy, it's called Purusha, which means the stillness, the potential of all things, and then Prakriti, which means the movement. So let's explore that right now from your position. So maybe you could bend your knees, stand your feet on the floor, and we'll come to half knee to chest pose. So let's say we inhale in this position. As you exhale, gently hug one knee in towards your chest. And then as you inhale, release that knee from your body, foot to the floor. And as you exhale again, the second knee comes into your chest. So pretty simple movement, but we've gone from stillness, trying to experience Purusha, where all things are possible, to Prakriti. So this is the restlessness. Some energy wave disturbs the stillness, and the creation of asana begins in your body. So what's the relationship of Purusha, the consciousness, and Prakriti, which is the movement or the manifestation? Well, you can say that Prakriti is the material evolution of Purusha. These two things are inseparable, like milk and its whiteness, or sugar and its sweetness. You can't think of one without the other. And that's what we'll be looking at today. As you continue this just one more time on each leg, think how you're combining stillness with movement. There's certain places in this asana where all of a sudden it's quiet and then there's movement. Okay, then please roll over to your side and we'll make our way up to mountain pose. Take your time. And then once you're up in mountain pose, I just wanted to show you something in a book. So if you can come close to your computer or your cell phone while you come into this. This is a book that kind of inspired today's class. And this is just a nice color illustration of what we're talking about. So you can see at the top there, there's your Purusha and Prakriti, and you've been playing with that dance in your first couple postures. Then we move into Buddhi. And maybe you've heard that word before. It kind of sounds like Buddha. And this is where there's a little bit of a dance between Purusha and Prakriti, and we start to get an idea of something. There starts to be the formation of life. And then we move into Ahamkara, which is known as our I principle. This is where we start to develop awareness that you're a separate individual, you have your own likes, dislikes, that you are you. So the I principle. And then we move into all of the other tattvas, and all of these other tattvas, and we'll go over those quite a bit in our postures now. These are how we experience life. So come up to mountain pose, stand on your feet. We're going to begin with the first group of tattvas by noticing certain things about your experience in mountain pose. As we walk around, or we feel around our bodies and experience life as you stand in mountain pose, know that you're moving to each of these different individual parts that we talked about. And as you hold mountain pose for a few more breaths, you'll start to notice that there's some cohesion between these various parts. For example, let's feel your feet press into the earth. So just take a moment to notice where your feet are, feel the feet connecting to the ground. And then as you exhale for the next couple breaths, allow the breath to sink right down your body and push out your feet into the floor. So the exhale is like an imagined thing now. You're imagining that you can exhale out your feet to the ground. And then, just for the last couple breaths in mountain pose, notice what you smell. Bring awareness to the nose. And any odor or lack of odor is relevant here, but notice what you smell. Okay. So we felt our feet, and we felt the connection down to the ground and eliminating towards the ground. We used our nose to smell. So those are 4 of the tattvas. Let's do a little bit more movement. When you're ready, inhale, lift your arms up, reach towards the sky. Exhale, forward fold. So bend your knees quite a bit. It's very beginning of our practice here. Inhale, take your hands up to your thighs and come halfway up. And then exhale, forward fold again. So we're just doing Uttanasana here, and then inhaling up to half forward fold and then back down. Good. So let's do that a few more breaths and continue to be aware of the feet into your earth. As you exhale, think about really folding forward and letting go to the earth, excreting what you don't need. And keep awareness, if you can, on your sense of smell through the nose. Take one more breath. And then please come all the way up on your next inhale, reach to the sky. And exhale, you might bring your hands together at the heart. When we bring our hands together at the heart, we're always expressing that desire for a coordination or balance or harmony. So you can use that today to kind of be part of that theme of the class. Let's turn sideways on your mat. So you're facing the long edge of the mat. Take your feet out a few feet apart from each other, not too far apart. Turn your feet out on a bit of an angle and test bend your knees so that when your knees bend, they stop over the ankles. They don't go past out further than the ankles. And you notice your toes and your knees are kind of pointing in the same direction when you bend. We do a little bit of a movement here in and out of Devi Asana or goddess pose. So still thinking a lot about the feet, still thinking a lot about downward elimination, letting go on the exhales, and staying in touch with your sense of smell. So let's inhale, reach up to the sky, and as you exhale, let's make that downward motion. And then inhale, come back up, and exhale, downward motion. And taking that a couple more breaths. Beautiful. Couple more breaths like that. And then coming back to your standing position. So what we're going to do here, if you haven't already guessed, is break down each one of your senses. So we have 5 basic senses. You have an organ that experiences that sense or creates that sense for you. For example, the nose creates your sense of smell. And then there are also associations between that and what happens in your body. For example, the nose and the sense of smell are associated with the root chakra, grounding and eliminating. Let's turn the feet so that they're parallel. You can take the feet a little further apart if you want to. We're going to come into a triangle pose. So when you're ready, rotate the right thigh bone so that the right foot is facing the short edge of the mat. And this is just the leg rotating in the hip socket, not the whole body rotating in that direction. Let a little bend come in your front knee. Don't worry about keeping it straight. Locked knee would be very undesirable here. And you may want to take this back leg, step it forward just a little bit, or internally rotate it a little bit, whatever helps you feel really stable with your stance. We're going to take a little bit of a moving version of triangle pose, and we're shifting our focus a little bit. So let's just do the movement. I'll add the sound, and then we'll add what to think about as we make the sound. So the movement is inhaling into a wide arm position, and then exhaling into the triangle pose, and letting the arm come over the top ear if you wish. So inhaling back up and exhaling into the triangle variation. If you don't like that variation, take one that you do. So we're going to add now in a moment a little bit of sound on the exhales. We'll just be humming maybe a little bit on the exhales. And what we're looking at here is we're looking at creating some sound, using our ear to hear it, and feeling the space around our bodies as we move out into the plane on the right side of the body. So let's take 3 more breaths here. And as you exhale, and try that a couple more times. Using the humming, using that vibration to really feel a sense of space, feel the sound. One more time. And then let's come back up to the center point, relax your arms, turn your legs parallel. Take a breath, just kind of noticing if you can still feel the vibration in your body, even though you're not making any noise now. And when you're ready, we'll turn the left thigh bone outward and come into Trikonasana or triangle pose on the other side. Remember, the left knee can be a little soft, that's fine. Inhale, open the arms. Exhale, leaning out to the left. And then as soon as you're ready, you can add in any sound you like. I suggested humming. You could also add in, a word like Om or something else that makes some more sound for you. Let's do that maybe 2 more times, really focusing on hearing through the ears, the power of speech and sound, and how it takes space for those sound waves to travel to reach other people in your vicinity or even into other parts of your body. Let's do 1 more breath, making some sound. Yeah. And then we'll come back up to center, turn your feet parallel, take a breath in and out through the nose. And then when you're ready, please come towards the front of your mat in Tadasana, again, in mountain pose. So I thought we might do 1 more thing to create a little bit of noise and a little bit of vibration, still working with the sound and the sense of hearing. So from mountain pose, we're going to come into some lunge salutes. So if you like to use a chair, by all means, Natalie, quiet. We have another puppy here today, so Natalie's really making an effort to show who's boss. So coming to the front of your mat, and we'll prepare to do lunge salute. So if you don't like putting your knee on the ground, you could have a chair in front of you, as we often do, and you can do this exact same procedure without going knee to the ground. Let's bring our hands together at the heart. That gesture that indicates cohesiveness, balance, that symphony of all our senses. And when you're ready, let's inhale and reach for the sky. And then exhale, soften the knees, come back to that forward fold we used earlier. Inhale, come halfway up. And then exhale, forward fold, and drop your right leg back into lunge. Now, because I don't have a chair today, I'm gonna let my right knee come down. When you're ready to inhale again, lift your arms. You can keep your arms on the chair if you prefer. Exhale, step the right foot up to the left foot. We'll forward fold again. And then inhale, lift all the way back up. Exhale, hands to the heart. So let's do that with the left leg now. And we might, if we want to, add the sound of maybe Om or another word that you were working with as you exhale. So are we ready? Inhale. Forward fold. Om. Inhale halfway, lift. Extend the chest forward. Exhale, forward fold. Om. And drop the left leg back into lunge. And then inhale, lift the arms up if you choose to. Exhale, feet come together, forward fold. Om. And then lift all the way up. And exhale, hands to the heart. Om. So what we're doing here is we're using the sound, we're using the sense of hearing through your ears to feel what space is like, to get a felt sense of the element of space. So let's try that one more time. We'll go right leg and then left leg. Ready? Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, forward fold. Om. Inhale, half lift. Really blossom through the chest. Exhale, forward fold. Let right leg back. Om. Inhale, lift the arms if you choose to. Really expand. Exhale, forward fold. Om. And inhale, lift all the way up to the sky. Exhale, hands to the heart. Om. Inhale, expand up to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Om. Inhale, half lift. And exhale, left leg back. Om. Inhale, lift your arms. And then exhale, forward fold. Om. Inhale, lift up to the sky. And as you take your hands to your heart again, last. Om. And we'll just hold mountain pose for a moment. You can keep the hands at your heart if you want. So far we've explored the 4 tattvas that had to do with feet and nose and grounding. And we explored the 4 tattvas that had to do with a sense of hearing and space around you. We're going to move our awareness now to the element of fire. So when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to step back with the front of the mat, step back with your right leg. Don't step back too far. So I'm stepping back with my right leg. Make sure that your right leg and your left leg are separated a little bit so that you can keep your hips square towards the short edge of the mat. You have space to do that. We're going to come into a full forward fold here with a nice set soft front knee. And then we're going to come halfway up and another full forward fold. So it's kind of like the very first vinyasa that we did. So let's get the movement down and then we'll get where we want to take our heads and our senses from here. So isn't it interesting as we practice our postures, this is a posture you've probably done maybe hundreds or thousands of times, but have you ever thought how to master your senses using the posture or how you would go about doing that? So as we inhale, we might lift up. Exhale, soft front knee, forward fold. Don't worry about touching the floor, along your legs fine. Inhale, lift halfway up. exhale, forward fold, and inhale all the way up again. And then come back to your forward fold as you exhale. So that's the vinyasa. Now let's get our brains involved in what we're doing. So we're taking awareness now to the element of fire. So once again, really noticing your feet into the ground, really noticing the movement in the belly. Building a little fire there. Okay, let's inhale again, lifting up. Exhale, this time come halfway down. Just come halfway down. Drop your hands to your leg wherever they were before. Stay there, just in the halfway down. Good. Now, when you get all the breath out of your belly, stay there. Don't inhale yet. And suck your belly in a little bit more. And fold all the way over your leg. And once you're folded all the way over your leg, relax and breathe. We might try that one more time on this side. So what's happening, just so you know, we're going to come up halfway. And then as we exhale, we're going to push all the air we can out of the belly. And then once we're at the end of the exhale, we're going to suck the belly in even more and then forward fold. So the belly's really empty of air. So try that one more time. Takes a breath or two to do that. And then hold the forward fold if you like, angling your chest towards the front knee. So you're on a little bit of an angle with the front of the body, the top of the body. And really feel your feet into the ground, especially your right foot behind you. And close your eyes. So the element that we work with when we work with fire is the eyes, or the sense organ is the eyes. So close the eyes and just draw the fire inward. And then when you're ready, please step your right foot forward, find your mountain pose again, and we'll take a moment to calibrate after that deep asymmetrical position. When you're ready, we'll go to the other side and do the same thing. So step your left leg back, find that asymmetrical stance. Hip square to the front of your mat. Let the front knee stay a little bit soft. When you're ready, inhale, lift all the way up, and exhale, fold forward. Doesn't matter where your hands land on your thigh or your calf. Inhale, lift halfway up, and exhale, forward fold. On your next inhale, come all the way up, and then as you exhale, we fold back over and start the whole process again. So we're working towards full Parshvattanasana in a moment. You're just going to do one more of these vinyasas, or these little flows, to really warm up the back, really warm up the legs. Press feet equally into the floor. Notice how your eyes are receiving different sensory impressions as you move through this. And then the next time you exhale, let's come just halfway forward. Don't do the full forward fold. Stop here. And as all the breath is out of your belly, really suck the belly muscles in actively, then forward fold with a very empty belly. And notice maybe the forward fold moves a little bit deeper into your body. And you can try that one more time. Come up halfway and then exhale once you get into the half lift position. Really pull the belly muscles up and in after you're done exhaling, and then forward fold, and breathe a couple times normally in your forward fold. So we're in Parshvattanasana, or pyramid pose. Close your eyes, noticing how the world feels different when you don't have the sense of sight. Plant your feet equally. Be aware of the fire in the belly that you've been stoking with that really deep contraction through the belly muscles. When you're ready to inhale, please come up with a nice long spine and step back into mountain pose. And take a moment to recalibrate. How we doing? Building a little heat perhaps, and that's what the element of fire offers to us. So our eyes are associated with fire and light, and they're associated with the ability to see. Okay, Let's step that right leg back, exactly the same stance as you had before. And then let the left knee bend a little bit. There's no need to have that left knee in a really, yeah, I'm gonna go this way. No need to have that left knee in a really straight locked position. It can definitely bend a little bit. Make sure you have enough space between your legs this way so that your hips can face the front edge of the mat without any compromising your low back. And this time we're going to add a little bit of twist. When we add a little bit more twist to what we were doing before, we're really going to start to churn up the fire in the belly a little bit more. So let's take the left hand around behind the back. Inhale, lift up that right arm. Exhale, reach forward as though I had some really good chocolate out front. And then at the end of the exhale, after you've gathered in all the belly muscles, now you twist and open to the left side of your mat. Inhale, lift back up. Exhale, come forward. As you come forward, you're really pulling in the belly muscles, really reaching long. And once there's no exhale left to push out, then you twist. And then come back up. Let's work that a couple more times, really being patient with that exhale, feeling that you're really working on the fire element. You're really working on your sense of sight actually here with these deep twists into the belly. Let's take one more breath on this side. And then maybe we hold the position. Maybe we refine the position a little bit. So you have your left arm around behind your back and your right arm is across the front knee. You can actually get a little bit, jazzy here by pushing your left leg out into your right arm and pulling your right arm back against the left leg. So you'll notice that gives you a little bit more oomph, a little bit more ability to twist. So Angela, would you be able to pull back on your left shoulder blade and open your chest to the left wall where the windows are? That's it. So twisting your upper body a little bit more. Even pull your left shoulder blade back more. Open the left shoulder a little bit more. Chest moving towards the window. That's it. There you go. Lots of breath there. And then when you're ready, I would look down again just for balance and allow yourself to lift back up through that right arm. Maybe inhale as you do that. And then exhale, step forward into mountain pose. That's a very deep pose. So you might feel even deeper layers of fieriness, of greater insight. Because isn't that an interesting use of the English language? We're working on the sense of sight right now through our eyes. And yet when we move deep into the belly and get the fire going, you might have deeper insight, inside sight. Let's step the left leg back. We'll do the same pose on the other side. Remember to give yourself adequate space between your legs, so that your hips can stay square to the front of your mat. Let the front knee bend as much as you need. Take your right arm around behind you. Inhale, lift your left arm up. And then exhale, lean forward as though there's really good chocolate way out there at the front of the mat. Yeah. And then at the end of your exhale, suck your belly muscles in and then keep going all the way down. And then inhale, come back up. And exhale, come forward and across your body. And so the twist happens after you're done exhaling, really, and you've really found a lot of muscle in your belly. So this is great core work, obviously, but we're doing it from a much deeper, more intimate perspective in that you're working with who you really are. Like you're working with the elements from which you're formed. You're working with your relationship to the universe around you. Last breath. And then as you come forward, we might hold the posture. And then add the isometric element just to increase the strength a little bit more. So as your right leg pushes out to the right, your left arm pushes back against it. So your outside shape remains the same. But there's this extra fire in the belly. And we really see if we can open up confidently to the right side of the mat. Show your chest, show your belly button over to that side of your mat. And take one more nice deep breath. And then when you're ready, looking down, I think is a great idea as you inhale and lift up the left arm and then step your feet together. And then just allow the reverberations of that deep twist to help you remember where you're grounded and where your fire comes from. We all need a little fire in the belly to get us through these days. Last pose where we're really going to focus on the sight, sense of sight and the eyes is tree pose or Vrikshasana. So it's commonly suggested in yoga that you fix your gaze on something that's not going to move. And today we're really going to focus on that aspect of tree pose. So if whatever version of tree pose you want, it doesn't matter, what kind of variation you use. I want to really focus on what's going on with your eyes. So I'm going to turn my computer up just a little bit so you can see more what's going on upstairs rather than downstairs. So really focusing on what you're looking at and the quality of your gaze as you come into your balancing pose of tree. So whatever version of tree you come into is fine. We're not going to worry too much about that, but really noticing the quality of gaze with your eyes and receiving as softly as you can the waves of light that create the sense of sight. So you're receiving light, which is fire, and that's what's allowing you to focus on whatever you're focusing on. So rather than analyzing, I'm looking at a pillow, I'm looking at a picture on my wall, I'm looking at the carpet on my floor, see if you can receive the waves of light in softness of the eyes. And then see if you can keep that focus for just a couple more breaths. And for those of you that are very adept at tree pose and you've practiced this a lot and you have a lot of time to make your grocery list while you're standing here, try closing your eyes. And you'll notice when you close your eyes, that brings a whole new element when you close off the sense of sight. Then the insight becomes more important. Let's release tree pose whenever you're ready. Both feet firmly planted on the ground now. Take a big breath in and out. And then when you're ready, you can come into the posture on the other side, Vrikshasana. And do it from the eyes today. So this might not be the deepest or biggest stretch for you, but do it from your eyes today. And you can even take your palms over your eyes if you're very confident in this posture and just notice the quality of light coming through the palms, that sort of thing. Get down. And then when you're ready, releasing tree pose. And we leave now our sense of sight and move on to our sense of touch. So slowly bring your hands together and just really notice that sensitivity that you have in your hands. So for the sense of touch, your sense organs are the hands. We're going to work with those in plank pose now. And no, you can choose any version of plank because it's not really that important which one. It's more talking about the sense of touch through the hands. So inhale, feel the air slipping through your hands as you lift up, and then exhale, forward fold, touch something with your hands. It could be the floor, could be your legs, could be blocks. And then adjust your hands onto the ground with great purpose. Now, if you're using a chair for plank, we did that the other day, that works fine. Just really feel your hands connect with the earth and then very slowly step your feet back into plank pose. No, you can drop your knees, that's perfectly fine. And we're working with the touch, sense of touch through the hands in plank pose. So drop the knees if you like. I thought we could do a little bit of a moving version of this. So let's inhale into plank, really draw the chest forward of the arms, and then exhale. You can push back into down dog if that's your game today, or drop your knees and do prayer pose. And of course, if you're using a chair, it's exactly the same. You keep your hands on the chair and you do plank, and then you pull your hips back into down dog. So move back and forth with your breath, feeling, if you can, your entire body. So I know your hands were what we started with, but can you expand your awareness now to feel your entire body moving forward and back in space? And your skin, can you really receive through your skin? So we're doing more of the Tattvas here. Let's just do one more breath in and out. And then may I invite you to come all the way down onto your belly for Cobra Pose. And if being on your belly is not a favorite spot for you, we're going to end up coming down onto our backs in a few minutes. So please feel free to come down onto your back now, and we'll join you in just a second. So for Cobra Pose, again, place your hands with the utmost awareness. Usually we place them on the floor beside the rib cage. Spread your fingers and press into all of the knuckles of your hand. And when we talk about the sense of touch, we're really working with the air element. So we want to bring a lot of air into the lungs, and it's almost like balloons are filling up in your lungs here. So when you're ready, press into your hands, lift your chest, and let the balloons of your lungs inflate fully. And then exhale, deflate, and touch back down to the ground. So this might not be the highest cobra that you can do, because sometimes when you push up really high, your shoulders round forward, collarbones pop forward, and you actually compress the lungs. So make a baby cobra out of it if that allows you to work with this more authentically and create as much space as you can in the lungs, really opening up the air in the lungs. One more breath in and out. Wonderful. And then let's rest for a moment on our bellies in Cobra Pose. I always bring my hands forward in order to do a little bit of a pillow there. And then just one more thing as we kind of play around with the sense of air in our bodies and around our bodies and our sense of touch. Would you please roll over to your back, and now we can all join together in this. Bend your feet, or bend your knees, put your feet on the floor. Just roll right over onto your back. You don't have to get up from the floor, yeah. And we'll just take a moment to get adjusted into what we sometimes call as constructed rest. And this position that we're moving into now is a kind of a core stabilizing position. So it's nice to do after Cobra Pose. But our focus today is the sense of air around us. So is it possible now you could lift your arms up towards the ceiling and your feet up towards the ceiling? And your legs don't have to be completely straight here, as best as you can. And then we'll do a little bit of movement. So maybe as you inhale, you take the arms and legs out in V shape, each of them. And then as you exhale, you cross your right leg over your left leg, right arm over your left arm, and then open back up. So just moving as slowly as you can manage, breathing as slowly as you can manage, and see how much of the air around you you can touch and then gather in. Feel yourself weaving into the space around your body. So the boundaries of your skin become a little bit blurred because you're just really moving out into the element of air around you. And of course, the breath is moving the element of air in and out of your body in this beautiful rhythm. And you're feeling all that through your skin, through your hands and feet even. Let's take a couple more breaths like this. Okay, and then you can hug your knees into your chest briefly. That might feel like a nice stretch. And then I'm going to invite you, please, to roll over onto your right side. I'm going to come with you into that. Because I'm on a hardwood floor here, I'm going to have a blanket underneath me. You may choose to do that too. So rolling over onto, let me adjust the computer again so you can see better. Rolling over onto your right side, placing your elbow underneath your shoulder. And you may want to take your lower arm and just rotate it a little bit so that the fingertips are facing more towards the top corner of the mat. Sometimes that's more comfortable for some shoulders. So explore that movement and see what works better for you. Now there's a couple different things we can do here. I'm starting to think now about the element of water, the sense of taste, and the sense organ of the tongue. So we're talking watery, fluid movement in that way. So I'm thinking more about this part of the body, and I want to do a version of side plank that really kind of moves around this part of the body. So try it. You can do a different side plank if you would prefer. So I'm thinking on the inhales, I'm going to really try to really drop the belly straight to the ground, and then gather that belly up as I exhale and really move the belly up in space and time. And so I'm trying to slosh things around in the lower belly as I'm doing this. So as I'm breathing, I'm feeling expansion on the inhales, contraction on the exhales, and then I'm moving in this up and down motion too, rather than just in and out. I've got some lateral movement in the spine too. Now you can also do other versions of side plank, you know, where you're doing this. You can have the front foot forward and you can kind of slosh this way, but I was thinking this was interesting to play with today. Let's take a couple more breaths. So we're really moving into now the sense of taste. So what do you taste right now? When you think about it, what do you taste? And then when you're ready, we can roll over onto the bellies and rest, or roll over onto your back and rest. So when we work in the belly with the fluidity of water, I mean, new life is born in water, isn't it? We need water to live. So really, water is a wonderful way to talk about regeneration or being generated. So this is a great way to birth new ideas, new confidence levels. Let's roll over onto your left side now. We will repeat the whole thing if we want to. So over on your left side, remember to play around with the angle of your lower arm, just to see what works better for this shoulder today. And then moving into the breath-centered movement. So whatever you've chosen, I was doing dropping the rib cage on the inhale and then lifting up, pushing away from the floor on the exhale, churning the primordial sea of the belly. So this is where new life can be born. New ideas can be generated. And while you're doing this, soften the tongue muscle, relax the jaw, and notice what you taste. Sometimes there's a taste in your mouth, even if you're not eating. Can we do 2 more breaths here? We're almost there, ladies. We're almost there. Good. And then we can release this. And this time, may I suggest you do roll over onto your back with your knees bent and feet on the floor. Remember when we were coming into pyramid pose a little bit earlier in the practice, and we did it from another posture as well. We really exhaled and we really tucked the belly in, and then we came into forward fold. We're going to use that same really pulling the belly muscles in and up after the exhale to try a little watery version of bridge pose. So please place your feet carefully into the mat. They're placed just as they would be for Tadasana or mountain pose. And the knees are basically over top of the ankles. Gaze straight up at the ceiling and arms at your sides. And your arms can pretty much stay at your sides for the first 3, and then we might choose to use movement with the arms. Make sure that behind you, you could move the arms without banging into a wall or something, or another prop. Okay, so let's do the bridge pose movement just with being aware of the watery element in the belly, and then we'll add some more stuff. So inhale, lift your hips into bridge pose, and exhale, lower back down. And take that 2 more times, please, at your own pace. And then this time as you come down, exhale. And then after you're done exhaling, don't bring any breath in, but really suck your belly muscles in even more. And pull them up towards your ribcage. And then relax and inhale on purpose. So that's a kind of a real fiery sort of thing to do, but we're going to use it to help churn the water element as well in bridge pose. So when you're ready, let's inhale again, lift up the hips, and maybe stretch your arms back behind your head. And then exhale all the air out of your belly. Stay right here. Exhale all the air out of your belly. Suck the belly up underneath the rib cage and then lower down. So you're lowering down after you're done exhaling. And then let's stay down for a neutralizing breath in between rounds of that, because it can be very, very profound. And then if you're ready, we can inhale back up, arms come back behind the head. Stay up as you exhale, and at the end of your exhale, suck your belly muscles in as much as you can comfortably and really tuck them up under the ribs. Now lower down, no breath is moving. You're just lowering down. Yeah, and inhale and relax at the end of all of that. And if you want, you could try that one more time. And if you're finding that all this hugging of your belly muscles is a bit too intense for a day of this heat or so, then, you know, you could just rest now and let that go, of course. But, and this last version of bridge pose, watch the tendency of your tongue to get tense. See if you can relax that on purpose. And then we'll stay down now. Take a breath in and out and try to make sure you've relaxed the belly muscles as much as possible now that there's no movement. Take a deep breath and make sure that there's some natural movement there for you. And then the last posture I was going to suggest before we come into Shavasana this afternoon was a supine twist. So I'm going to cue one kind of that. If you like a different one, of course, you would do what you like. I'm going to suggest that you lift your hips up as though you were going to do bridge pose again, and then drop them towards the left edge of your mat. So your hips are going to be off on an angle to the rest of your body. Now, please straighten out your right leg on the floor and bring your left leg a little closer into you. Now you can use your right arm to hold on to the left leg. And then slowly guide and support the left leg as it comes across. Now please don't feel as though you have to get your left leg all the way to the floor. In fact, I'd rather you didn't. I'd rather you stop when your left hip was right on top of your right hip bone. And just use your left arm to kind of, you know, support the right leg now. Sorry, was it the other way around? the left leg. Use your right arm to kind of support the left leg. So you're kind of not pulling your low back into any kind of vulnerable position. You're really honoring the safety of your low back and just enjoying maybe a milder sensation than what you're used to, but something that allows a lot more fluidity, a lot more mobility. And then soften the tongue muscle. Maybe you feel a little saliva come into your mouth. It's sometimes fun to play with this by imagining your favorite food in front of you and seeing if any saliva appears in your mouth. So the senses really deeply impact our physicality and what happens to us physically. Let's lift up now that left leg and bring your hips back into alignment with the body, so your body's straight once again on the mat. And take a moment to meditate on that if you like. You thought about a food and you started to salivate. Isn't that interesting? And so throughout our class today, we've been thinking about the five senses, and that impacted our impression of our world around us and our place that we serve and live in this world around us. When you're ready, let's move into the twist on the other side exactly the same way. So you're gonna lift your hips, shift them to the right side of the mat, straighten out the left leg, and then guide the right leg, support the right leg in your twist. And try to stop your body when it's rotating so that the right hip bone's on top of the left hip bone. It doesn't go too far on an angle towards the ground. And then holding here in this twist, breathing easily but deeply. And it's a relationship we have with our senses and how all of the information that comes to us from the senses creates our manas, or our mind. And that's the final tattva. That's the final element of this symphony, is what sense we make out of our senses. When you're ready, we can start to pull back up from the twist and adjust our spine back into a straight line on the mat and slowly move towards Shavasana. So whatever props you need to be comfortable for the next 5 or 10 minutes, let's find them and get organized. And just while you're settling into your Shavasana position, let's reflect on our class we've shared today We've talked about the five senses, the organs through which we experience these senses, such as the ears and the skin and the eyes, the tongue, the nose. And we've talked about the powers that the senses have, how they allow us. Bye, Ange. Take care. The power that the senses have to help us create speech, to show gestures with hands, or to walk with our feet, to generate things or to eliminate things. And all of that produces impressions into our psyche, into our world, and weave together to create our minds. So we move into Shavasana now, which is typically a practice in yoga that helps us to practice what we call pratyahara, which is withdrawal of the senses. And as we release our addiction to the senses, so it could be something as simple as addiction to chocolate, or addiction to a certain type of touch of a fabric on your skin, or a certain music note, as we weave or as we withdraw from that weaving of our senses into our psyche, we climb back up that diagram I showed you at the beginning of class to Purusha, to potential, to consciousness, to connection to higher potential, to higher pursuits, to understanding the interconnectedness of all things and how we're of it, but we're not of it. So these cerebral concepts, these philosophical debates, they become who we are. They become our experience of matter in this world. So let's bring it back down to Shavasana. Let's bring it back to being in the body in this moment. And feeling all that we feel, hearing all that we hear, tasting all that we taste, seeing all that we see, and yet not being those things. Being greater than the sum of the parts. So as best as you can, close your eyes so you're not bothered by too much visual stimulation. I hope your environment is as quiet as it can be so there's not too much hearing stimulation. And of course, we're not eating right now, and we've got our props as simple as we can, so there's not too much stimulation even on the skin. And then see if that helps you to release the tyranny of the senses in a way. And just sense from the inside, going deeper. We might just spend a couple more breaths here. And then taking maybe a few deep breaths. If you have the luxury of staying longer in Shavasana this afternoon, that's one of the beauties of being in your own home, is you can take that time that you need. You're on no one else's schedule, but perhaps it's time now to take a few deeper breaths and make a few movements with the fingers and the toes. Bending the knees at your leisure and rolling over to your side. Resting on your side as long as you like. And then coming up to a seated position when you're ready. Using whatever props. If you're using a chair today, that's fine. It's recommended, really. And then let's see if we can bring everything back into symphony by using that sacred creative sound of Om. So I'm inhaling now. Thank you so much for sharing your Friday afternoon with me. Namaste.